the disappearance that disturbs her mind. A lot of guys believe that after a breakup, the way to make a woman miss them is to stay visible, to remain present, to keep reminding her they exist. But that belief is the very thing that destroys their position. Because the truth is simple and uncomfortable. You don't miss what never leaves. So if you've gone through a breakup and you're wondering how to make her feel your absence, how to get her thinking about you again, how to slowly shift the dynamic back in your favor, then you need to pay very close attention. Because this is not about chasing her. This is about triggering something psychological, something deeper, that makes her come back on her own. You want to hear this? She insight here. Welcome to the channel. Now, understand this first. After every breakup, there is an emotional imbalance. One person is always more invested, more reactive, more desperate to fix things. And right now, that person is you. So what do most men do? They reach out. They send long messages. They explain themselves. They try to end things on a good note. But what they don't realize is, they are destroying the very thing that creates emotional pull after a breakup: uncertainty. The moment you over-explain yourself. The moment you pour everything out. You give her a complete, clean, emotionally processed version of you. There's nothing left for her to figure out. No mystery. No tension. No reason to think about you. You've closed the loop for her. But when you do the opposite, when you disappear, without announcement, without explanation, something shifts. At first, she feels relief. And you need to understand this part. Most breakups come with emotional release, especially if things were tense. So yes, in the beginning she feels lighter, like she made the right decision. But then, something doesn't feel right. Because her mind was expecting a pattern. She expected you to reach out, to react, to chase. That's what she was used to. And when that pattern suddenly breaks, it creates a gap, a silence that feels unnatural. And that's when the questions begin. Why hasn't he reached out? Did he move on that fast? Was I wrong about him? Understand this. People are far more affected by unanswered questions than answered ones. Now, instead of you chasing her, her mind starts chasing you. You've removed yourself from the conversation she thought she still had access to. Now she's alone, with her own thoughts. And this is where something even deeper happens. Without you there to reinforce the negative parts of the relationship, her memory begins to shift. It softens. It filters. She starts remembering the good moments, the connection, the comfort, the familiarity. And because you're not interrupting that process with needy behavior, those thoughts begin to grow. Quietly, slowly, powerfully. Now let's be clear. Disappearing without announcement is not about ghosting in a childish, reactive way. It's about control. It's about having enough discipline not to chase clarity that doesn't serve you. Because that urge you feel, the urge to text her, to explain, to reach out, that's not love. That's discomfort. That's you trying to escape the feeling of losing control. But the moment you act on it, you don't rebuild attraction. You destroy it. You trade long-term power for short-term relief. And the man who wins in this situation is not the loudest, not the most emotional, not the one who explains the most. It's the one who can sit in silence, without breaking. Because silence, when used correctly, is not passive. It's pressure. Rewriting her reality without saying a word. Now here's where things become even more powerful. Because after the breakup, the relationship doesn't actually end in her mind the same way it ended in reality. It gets rewritten. Quietly. Emotionally. She creates a story. A story that explains why it ended. Why it had to end. Why she's better off without you. And that story? It's what gives her peace. It's what allows her to move forward without second-guessing herself. If the story feels clean, logical, complete, she moves on easily. But if that story becomes unstable, if something doesn't add up, she starts to revisit it. And this is where you come in, without saying a single word. Because if you don't chase, if you don't argue, If you don't try to correct her perception, her story doesn't get reinforced. It just sits there, unchallenged, but also unsupported. And over time, reality starts to compete with it. She insight here. Pay attention. Because this is where behavior becomes more powerful than words. Let's say her story about you was, he's too needy, too emotionally dependent. Now imagine two outcomes. If after the breakup you start chasing, over-texting, explaining yourself, you confirm her story instantly. Case closed. But if you do the opposite, if you stay calm, composed, controlled, no chasing, no reacting, no emotional outbursts, now her story has a problem. Because what she believed no longer matches what she sees. And when someone's internal belief doesn't match external reality, it creates discomfort. That discomfort is called cognitive dissonance. And people cannot sit in that tension for long. So they do one of two things. They either force themselves to believe their story harder, or they start questioning it. And your silence? Your restraint? That's what applies the pressure. Because you're no longer feeding her version of you. You're letting it collapse on its own. But here's the deeper layer most men miss. You don't just control the narrative through how you treat her. You control it through how you live your life. Because even in silence, information travels. Mutual friends talk. People observe. Energy is noticed. So without you saying anything, she starts hearing things. She said he was needy, but he seems fine. She said he was lost, but he looks focused. Now her certainty begins to crack. Not from you, but from reality itself.